This is the old Holden Commodore, one of Australia's favourite cars. This is the new Holden Commodore. It's got no V8, it's not rear drive, and it's not built on Aussie soil anymore. But Holden's engineers have been part of this project since the very beginning, over 4 years ago.
The Aussie engineering team that tuned the old Commodore have worked their magic on the new one, recalibrating the steering and suspension to better suit local roads and conditions. But like a straight-talking politician, this isn't the only surprise.
This might be the smallest engine a Commodore has ever had, but the 2-litre turbocharged petrol engine is the most powerful entry-level model in the Commodore history. It's got 190 kilowatts and 350 newton meters of torque. What does that mean? When you put the throttle down, it's going to charge.
Another major change to the new Commodore is the adoption of a sleeker, more European lift-back body style. It looks great and improves boot access, but the sloping rear roofline reduces rear seat headroom.
This is very spacious. There's a much better sense of room in this vehicle, and you feel a little bit more ensconced than the previous Commodore, and it is far more high-tech. The touchscreen looks better, it's got more functionality, you've got much more advanced instrument panel, and you've got a lot more tech in this car as well. It can have radar cruise control, it can steer you back into your lane if you come out, it's got blind spot. There's a lot going on with this, and it does feel a lot more modern than the previous Commodore.
But before we get back in the old Commodore, it's time to see how the new one drives. Holden has given us an opportunity to drive the new model before and after the steering and suspension changes.
The first thing I'm noticing is the engine. It pulls. The 2-litre turbo makes this car feel a lot smaller than it actually is. It pulls better than the V6 from low revs. The Aussie suspension tune is also very impressive. We've tested the standard model that comes straight out of Germany against the Aussie version back to back, and they are worlds apart. The German version is really wallowy through corners. This one sits much flatter. It's much more engaging to drive. It's got better road holding, and the front end tips into corners really nicely too.
Holden engineers have done a fantastic job improving the car.
Does it feel like a Commodore? Yes and no. It holds the road very well, it absorbs bumps and lumps with ease, and it corners pretty well. But I'm going to hop into the classic VF2 Commodore to find out exactly how it feels back to back.
Now it's crunch time. Newfangled versus Old Faithful.
The steering is a little heavier, which I personally don't mind, but the 6-speed automatic is a lot slower to shift. The 9-speed in the new Commodore is really good. It's fast and snappy and smooth. The old Commodore also feels heavier, particularly when you throw it into corners. But even though it's a little heavier, when you get on the throttle, it feels a bit nicer pushing through corners. The new 2-litre turbo leaves this V6 for dead. It just takes a lot longer to rev, and it just feels a bit older compared to that really fresh, really quick, rapid turbocharged petrol engine. One area where the Aussie-built VF2 Commodore wins, hands down, is ride comfort. It just seems to absorb the bumps a whole lot better than the new model. Don't get me wrong, the new model's pretty good, but I've noticed on those smaller amplitude bumps, this one just seems to soak them up very easily. The new German-built Commodore is a good car. I think it's going to turn a lot of people around, especially those who love their tech. But it's not a true blue Aussie car. It doesn't have the heart and soul of a rear drive built for these conditions.
The new and imported Commodore may attract new customers, but I reckon the legions of rusted-on Commodore buyers will want a lot more convincing.